The rise of the Desert Fox in North Africa. Few military leaders have captured imaginations like Erwin Rommel, famously known as the Desert Fox. Despite his allegiance to Nazi Germany, he earned a reputation for courage, daring, and tactical brilliance, even among his adversaries. Rommel's arrival in North Africa in 1941 marked a pivotal shift in the Desert Campaign. The Italian forces had been struggling against the British-led Western Desert Force, with major setbacks including the capture of Tobruk and the threat to Tripoli. Mussolini's crumbling North African empire prompted him to seek assistance from Adolf Hitler, initially deeming North Africa a secondary theater. Hitler recognized that a total Italian collapse could jeopardize the Axis alliance. On January 11, 1941, Hitler issued Directive No. 22, ordering German forces to hold Tripolitania and sending General-Lieutenant Erwin Rommel to reinforce Italian positions. Rommel, a rising star who had gained fame leading the 7th Panzer Division during the invasion of France, was known for audacious maneuvers, earning his unit the nickname Ghost Division. Officially, Rommel's Afrika Korps was to serve as a blocking force under Italian command, conducting only defensive reconnaissance. However, Rommel spotted a loophole and took the initiative, launching a surprise offensive against the Commonwealth forces in March 1941. Exhausted British troops, expecting an attack only in May, were unprepared. Outnumbered and outgunned, Rommel's mobile panzers bypassed defensive lines, causing chaos and forcing the British to withdraw across Cyrenaica. Only the Tobruk garrison, defended by Australian troops, remained secure. Attempts to relieve the port failed, and Rommel laid siege to Tobruk, even as his superiors warned against further advances. Despite these warnings, Hitler celebrated Rommel's bold tactics, promoting him to command Panzergruppe Afrika, consolidating German and Italian forces under his leadership. This promotion also strengthened Rommel's personal connection to Hitler, enhancing his status as the Führer's favored general. Strategic gambles and the dash to the wire. Rommel's early successes in North Africa, however, were just the beginning of a high-stakes chess game in the desert. By mid-1941, Hitler's attention shifted eastward with Operation Barbarossa, leaving North Africa secondary in strategic priority. On the Allied side, new Western Desert Force commander, General Sir Claude Auchinleck, focused on relieving Tobruk. Operation Crusader, launched on November 18, 1941, caught Rommel off guard, triggering intense armored engagements across the desert, notably at Sidi Rezat. Despite initial German setbacks, Rommel sensed an opportunity and personally led the 21st Panzer Division in what became known as the Dash to the Wire, advancing up to 60 kilometers toward the Egyptian border. His objective was to replicate earlier successes and force a British rout, yet logistical constraints proved decisive. Rommel's forces ran low on fuel and were forced to divert to Bardia for resupply, giving the Allies, particularly New Zealand forces, a chance to regroup and reinforce Tobruk. Over the following weeks, the British brought in fresh reserves, including the 2nd South African Division. Rommel attempted counterattacks but was increasingly pressured by the improving Allied forces. By the end of the year, he was back at El Agheila, retreating from positions he had captured 9 months prior. These early desert campaigns highlighted both Rommel's tactical ingenuity and the limitations imposed by supply lines, terrain, and Allied resilience. Tobruk, El Alamein, and the turning tide. Undeterred by setbacks, Rommel reorganized and developed strong defensive positions, such as the Cauldron, to stabilize the front closer to Tripoli. By May 1942, Axis forces resumed offensives, capturing Bur, Hakheim, and eventually surrounding and defeating Allied forces in multiple engagements. On June 21, Tobruk fell in just 2 days, with 35,000 South African defenders captured, marking one of Rommel's greatest victories and earning him a promotion to German Field Marshal. Yet these successes came at a cost. The battered 8th Army retreated to El Alamein with minimal tanks remaining. Axis forces met increasingly prepared Allied defenses, and British anti-tank gunners began exacting heavy tolls on Rommel's panzers. Political pressures added to the military strain. Churchill demanded counterattacks, leading to the replacement of Auchinleck with Bernard Montgomery. Montgomery, however, recognized the need to rest and retrain the 8th Army, exploiting strategic positions at El Alamein, constrained by the sea and the Qattara Depression. Intelligence breakthroughs, particularly from ultracode breaking, allowed the Allies to anticipate German movements, limiting Rommel's ability to execute surprise maneuvers. As Rommel's health and supply situation deteriorated, the British seized the initiative, culminating in the Second Battle of El Alamein on October 23, 1942, which signaled the beginning of the end for Axis ambitions in North Africa. Logistics, terrain, and the limits of desert warfare. Rommel's eventual defeat was not simply a matter of battlefield losses. It was influenced by fundamental logistical and strategic constraints. North Africa's vast deserts presented unique challenges for supply lines, with Rommel's forces relying heavily on maritime transport vulnerable to British control of Malta and the Mediterranean. While some historians argue that Rommel exaggerated shortages, supply was consistently a limiting factor, with shortages of fuel, ammunition, and vehicles, hampering operational effectiveness. In contrast, the Allies enjoyed secure supply routes via Alexandria, the Suez Canal, and the Cape of Good Hope. Geography also limited Rommel's maneuver warfare. Mountains in Tunisia and the narrow El Alamein front restricted the ability of panzers to operate freely, while multi-front battles, including Operation Torch landings in Morocco, further strained Axis forces. Moreover, the morale and performance of Italian allies were uneven. Rommel initially criticized Italian troops, although their contributions were critical to early victories. The multinational composition of Allied forces mirrored Axis complexities, yet improved coordination, training, and equipment eventually allowed them to capitalize on German vulnerabilities. Desert conditions, illness, and fatigue further weakened Rommel's troops, while Luftwaffe support dwindled, granting the Allies growing air superiority. Tanks, tactics, and technological dynamics. The North African campaign was fundamentally a tank war, with mechanized forces shaping the operational landscape. Rommel initially leveraged the Panzer IIs and IVs to exploit speed and maneuver, using combined arms boxers, integrating tanks, artillery, and engineers, enabling flanking attacks and flexible responses. British forces initially relied on Matilda II and Vickers cruiser tanks, effective against Italian forces but challenged by German armored innovation. As the campaign progressed, both sides upgraded equipment. The British introduced the M3 Grant, M4 Sherman, and Churchill tanks with 6-pounder guns, while Germany deployed specialized Panzer III and IV variants and even limited numbers of Tiger tanks. Despite their reputation, Tigers had minimal impact in North Africa due to supply, terrain, and fuel constraints. Ultimately, German technical superiority was less decisive than tactical application, combined arms integration, and unit morale. British adaptation improved coordination between armor and infantry. Artillery prioritization and exploitation of intelligence allowed the Allies to neutralize Rommel's earlier advantages. This combination of technological evolution, innovative tactics, and strategic foresight gradually shifted the balance in favor of the Allies. Strategic priorities and the ultimate Allied victory. Rommel's defeat in North Africa resulted from a convergence of logistical, operational, and strategic factors. Hitler's focus on the Eastern Front relegated North Africa to secondary importance, limiting resources and strategic guidance for Rommel. While Rommel excelled in short, decisive campaigns, North Africa's vast scale, protracted supply chains, and limited strategic objectives hindered his approach. Allied forces, in contrast, had concentrated attention. Intelligence and supply networks, coupled with political imperatives, particularly Churchill's insistence on victory. The entry of U.S. forces through Operation Torch compounded Axis difficulties, creating a two-front struggle that Rommel could not sustain. By early 1943, Axis forces were overwhelmed, with Tripoli falling on January 23 and large-scale surrenders following in May. North Africa's capture marked the beginning of the Allies' Mediterranean advance, setting the stage for operations in Sicily and Italy and opening the way to eventual victories in Europe. Rommel's legacy, the Desert Fox mythos, daring maneuvers, and armored warfare expertise remains iconic, yet ultimately, Allied strategic focus, logistical superiority, intelligence, and sustained operations ensured his expulsion from Africa, shaping the broader trajectory of World War II.